In this video, I'm going to be walking through how to use Power Platform to build a customer-facing reception desk app that lets visitors sign in for the appointments that they've booked using Microsoft Bookings, and then notify the staff member they have their appointments with that they've arrived. So Microsoft Bookings is a fantastic tool that's included in most Microsoft 365 plans that allows us to automate the process by which our customers or other stakeholders within our business can book meetings or services with us. I use this in my own business to book client meetings, but you could use it virtually anywhere, from hair salons to doctors' offices to schools or universities. So Bookings is a wonderful tool for helping you to set up virtual appointments, but it can also be used just as easily to set up in-person services or meetings. And in most businesses, when a person arrives at your physical location for a service or a meeting, there is some process that you need to follow to sign them in, whether that be for your security or to make sure they've signed something like an NDA, or simply to track that they've turned up so you can bill them appropriately. And this can lead to your visitors having to re-enter information they've already given you, or to start from scratch with some new system. Wouldn't it be great if you could connect a customer-facing app that is used at your reception desk for your guests to sign in with the data they've already put in your Microsoft Booking system or elsewhere? So jumping first into Microsoft Bookings, I have the booking page here for a booking calendar that I've set up just called Product Demos, with one service available, a meeting for a product demo and factory tour. And I've got 3 of my staff attached to this, and I've got options here for booking the service and adding in the details. So on the management side of this is the back end of bookings, of the product demos bookings calendar. And you can see we've got a few bookings here, and we've got our staff along here. And so we're right in the middle of a product demo and factory tour booked by me, and we've got another one here for test customer. So here is our bookings registration app, and we are going to enter our email address, and our system finds our booking, hello test customer. It finds that I've got a product demo and factory tour scheduled with Miriam, and it's due to start today at 4 p.m. So if I'm happy with this is why I am here at the reception desk. I can click confirm and sign in. And then we jump over to this page where it says we capture a photo of you for security purposes. So I'm going to capture my photo. There we go. I'm happy with that. I don't look too happy in the photo. Maybe I can retake it. There we go. That's much better. So now I'm going to proceed. And there you can see, thank you. Got a photo of Miriam, a photo of me, and it tells me that Miriam has been informed of my arrival. And then it resets back to the first page so the next customer can be serviced. So over in Miriam's Teams, I have this message from Power Automate, and it says, test customer for product demo and factory tour is here to see you, and then a photo of the person that you need to collect from your reception area. But let's take a look at how this has been built. So this is a fairly straightforward app. We've got 4 screens in our Canvas app and 2 flows. And all of the data transactions are happening with those flows. So I'm going to jump in and take a look at those first. So if I jump over to Power Automate, I just want to have a quick look at what we have available to us when it comes to Microsoft Bookings. So I'm just going to grab bookings here, and you can see that I have these 3 triggers available to me when an appointment is created, when an appointment is cancelled, or when an appointment is updated. If I just grab one of those and grab an additional step, you can see that I don't actually have any actions available to me in the bookings connector that Microsoft provides. However, if we jump over to the Graph API documentation, you can see that there's actually quite a lot here related to customer booking, which is the API of the Bookings app. And you can see I can grab out of here, I can list my staff, I can list my customers, I can actually get my appointments out of here, so I can list appointments or list appointments in calendar view. So I have a pretty robust control over bookings from the Graph API. I simply don't have many of those capabilities in Power Automate with the connector that's provided by Microsoft. But you can see that the endpoint that I'm coming to grab these items around bookings is under this solutions address. Now, in a previous video on the Graph API, I covered how the HTTP connectors that are provided to us in the default connectors in Power Automate only allow us to access certain parts of the Graph endpoint. And this solutions part is actually not available in those default connectors. So jumping back over to Power Automate, what I actually did was I went ahead and created a custom connector for the purposes of this demonstration. And in that previous video, I've actually gone through how to create a custom connector before, so I'm not going to do that again. But you can see that what I've done here is created a certain number of actions. I've got get customers, get appointments in a date range, list the booking businesses that are available, get appointments by ID, and get a staff email or UPN given the ID of the staff member. So having built this custom connector to get this information out of here, I went ahead and I created a single flow to get my information out of bookings. So if I jump into that, so it's initiated, the trigger is from Power Apps, so I call it from Power Apps. So I just have this one visitor input variable, and then I initiate a whole bunch of variables here. So I have my host UPN, that's the person who's hosting the guest, the type of visit, the start time of the visit, the customer name, and whether or not our booking is found. And all of these are blank to start off with, apart from the booking being found, which we mark as false. And then I also create a search string to use later on. Then, because this can be either an email address or a telephone number that I'm passing from Power Apps, I go through a short process to work out, is it an email address? So does it contain an @ sign? If it does, then I list it as an email address and continue on. If it's a telephone number, then people can write telephone numbers in lots of strange ways. They can add dashes, they can add brackets. So I wanted to go ahead and strip those out. So I went through and actually used some replace expressions to strip out those items. I'm sure there's better ways of doing some of this. But essentially what I ended up with was our telephone number again, passed back into the search string. Then I want to not grab hundreds of bookings from my database, assuming that's what I've got. So what I did was look at a search window which is from 30 minutes prior to the person arriving at your reception desk until 2 hours after they've arrived. And to do that, I've got an end time of our UTC now time plus 3 hours, or UTC now minus 30 minutes. Then using our custom connector, I can get appointments in a date range with those start times and end times above. And then assuming we find some appointments within that date range, so we check the length of the array that's been passed back to us from this get appointments in date range. If we have some data there, then we actually go through each appointment that we've got from this action, and we grab the full details of that. Now, according to the Graph API documentation, when you get a bunch of appointments through the calendar view search of those appointments, it should pass to you an array of the customers that are associated with each of those appointments. But what I found with playing around with this with the Graph Explorer and then building the connector was that didn't actually work. I didn't seem to be able to either access or expand those customers from that calendar view endpoint. I had to go through and grab the actual appointment by the ID to expose those customers that are associated with the appointment. And because you can have multiple customers associated with each booking, there's actually an array that's passed back to you of each of those customers, as opposed to it just being one customer associated with the booking. So we have to go through and grab each appointment, and grabbing each of those appointments by the ID gives us access to the customer data. And then because the customers is an array, it's usually going to be a one-member array, but it could be a multi-member array, we have to go through each of those customers and see, does the email address or the phone number match with the search criteria that I've already established. And only if it does do I go through and set the variables that I established above with that customer. And finally, we look to see, are there any staff members associated with this? And if there are staff members associated with this particular booking, then we can go ahead and get the staff member UPN, given the ID of the staff member, and add that back into our variable to pass back to Power Apps. So we then respond to our Power App or flow. We pass back this information back to Power Apps, and that's everything that we need from bookings. So let's jump back over to our flows, and we're going to post registration notification to host. This is the one that sends a message in Teams. So we'll look at how this works. So we actually get these 5 variables from Power Apps: the visitor name, the visitor type, the host UPN, the visitor photo, and the visit date. We create a file in OneDrive just with the visitor name.png, and the way that we do that is we take this data that has been passed to us in visitor photo 1, and we use the data URI to binary action to convert that data to binary so that it can be saved as a file in OneDrive. Then once we've got the file in OneDrive, we can use this get file thumbnail. What that does is creates a thumbnail of that image, which you can directly get a URL to, and that thumbnail hangs around for 6 hours post you creating it. So it's just temporarily available. And then using that thumbnail, we can actually post a message into Teams. You can use HTML in your Teams message. So we just use an image tag with the URL that we've established from this get file thumbnail, and that lets us push a picture through to a message in Teams. And then there aren't any responses to go back to Power Apps in this case. So we don't send anything back there. So those are the 2 flows that we've got. And then if we jump back into our app, you can see that our first flow is triggered from this button here. So we create a collection called Power Apps Response, and then we initiate running that flow with the value of this input field here as the variable that we pass through to flow. And then this is going to wait to get that response. So when you add in the pass a response back from flow, Power Apps is going to wait until it gets that response to move on to the next thing that's being asked to do in Power Apps. So it runs this flow, it completes that flow, it takes the data that it receives back from flow, adds it into this collection that we can use elsewhere in this app, and only once all that is done does it navigate to confirm appointment. And confirm appointment is going to is either going to show if there's no data that's been passed back to our app, then it's going to show this screen to say that there wasn't a booking that was associated. So let's just try this. So we're going to try Nick at notmyemail.com. So in that case, it couldn't find something. So let's jump back and try one that we know does have something associated with it. And there you go. You can see that we've got this information passed through here. This is just a box, a rectangle that I created that's got that information in there. And you can see we're just using concatenate to join together the information that we're getting back from flow. That collection that we've created is obviously a table, but there will only be one row in that table, so we can just use first to grab the first item that's in the table for each of these, and then just using things like Office 365 users to grab the profile image and so on and so forth as you normally would. And then when it comes to the camera, we've got a similar set of things going on here. So you can use a camera control to capture an image. That's just a control that you've got access to in Power Apps, and depending on how many cameras you've got on your device, you may need to define which camera it's going to look at. And I then have a captured image, of which the image is a variable called var photo. So what's going on here is that when I create my image, so I create my image when I tap on my camera. So on select, I'm going to update my context for a local variable here for my camera, and I'm going to use the camera.photo property, which is the photo that the camera has captured. So I then have my photo on the camera independent of my my camera, so to speak, and then I can set the image of my captured image to this var photo. So that's the still image that displays when we've created one. So if I go ahead and activate this, you can see I now have a still image here, and this retake appears. So I can keep retaking my picture as much as I like until I'm happy with the picture that I've got taken. And it's only at the point that I've captured an image and I decide to proceed, so let's see what happens there, that we go ahead and we do some stuff to have, so first of all, we take that captured photo and we now set it to a global variable because we want to be able to use this on a different screen. So we have this var captured photo is set to the value of the local variable var photo. We run our post-registration notification to host Power App, passing along the customer name, the type, the host UPN, the start date time, and the captured photo. So we just pass that captured photo directly across to Power Automate to deal with, and then we navigate to the confirmation screen. And remember, it's not going to navigate to the confirmation screen until it has done this. So it doesn't the way this is written, it doesn't have concurrency if it's doing all these things at once. So because I've got a return to Power Apps action in my flow, let's just jump over and take a look at that again. Because I've got this respond to a Power App or flow action at the bottom of my flow, Power Apps is going to wait until it completes all of this in order to take the next action. So that's the reason that this is hanging a little while it's doing something in Power Automate. It's not just carrying on. So we then jump over to our confirmation screen. We're using our photo, which is our global variable on this screen. And then there is a hidden timer. So if we let's just look at this and make this visible for a moment. So we've got a timer here that is normally invisible, that counts up to 10. We've got this this label which actually counts down from 10 with the timer and just resets. So when this timer gets to its end, we actually navigate back to contact capture, so we go right the way back to the start of our app again. So it's not a very complicated app at all, but you could do more with it if you wanted to. For example, if we just jump over to the photo capture screen, one of the things that you might want to do here is that you can actually put a pen input on a screen. So if you had a set of NDAs or other requirements that you needed people to agree to before they were going to come into your building, then you could actually get them to sign on screen and you could capture that. Additionally, none of the data, like the photo, is being captured anywhere, but there's no reason why you couldn't grab this into Dataverse or into SharePoint and capture this information somewhere along the way using Power Automate. You might also want to think about, depending on how many appointments you're having, instead of running a flow every time you're initiating this, you might want to do a scheduled flow, say every 15 minutes. You update your upcoming appointments down to a Dataverse database. Grab them all, update your Dataverse database, and then just query the Dataverse database for the app itself. That's going to be a heck of a lot quicker than the way that we're doing it here. So hopefully this has given you some ideas about just how you can take those apps in Microsoft 365 and using Power Platform, you can start to weave them together in a way that really work for your particular needs and processes that you have in your business. I look forward to seeing you at the next time I release a video. Until then, bye-bye.